All languages have frozen leftovers from older language stages that are essentially fossilized and no longer productive, such as the English plural forms children and oxen, or old dative case forms in modern Swedish, like man ur huse or lagom. Old Norse was no exception, and there were some remnants of older Proto-Norse word forms still seen in Old Norse, and this video will show some noteworthy examples. The original first-person ending was o. This is seen in runic inscriptions and also in West Germanic, such as Old High German and Old Saxon. However, in Old Norse, this ending dropped or was replaced by second and third person endings, and the first person also acquired I umlaut from the second and third person through analogy. Hence you have Proto-Norse faro, farij, becoming Old Icelandic fer, fer, with the same vowel in both examples, where you would expect at least an u umlauted a in the first person. However, this original ending shows up fossilized in a mediopassive form that was created by attaching the pronoun mick or sick directly to the verb, where you have Proto-Norse faromik becoming Old Icelandic foromk, showing that the original ending became stuck in this position, but not elsewhere, where it was analogically replaced by the second and third person form. Proto-Norse short e broke to ja when a back vowel originally followed in the second syllable in Proto-Norse, and this was particularly strong in Eastern Scandinavia, and created many pairs of words starting with ja or jo in Old Norse that differs from particularly West Germanic, with, for example, Proto-Norse evnaz becoming Old Swedish jämn, compared to Old English evn, Old High German eben, modern English even. However, when used as a prefix in compounds, the original vowel was sometimes preserved in Old Swedish, with, for example, these words emwell, frökin, from earlier evnawella, evnafråkinas, where presumably the stress lay on the second word, sparing the breaking in the first word from happening, leading to an unbroken vowel straight from Proto-Norse in this prefix precision. In most Old Norse dialects, short e was often lowered to e, in particular in unstressed function words such as pronouns, copula, or prepositions. But this didn't happen in Gutnish, where you would have, for example, Old Icelandic mer, eru, med. Old Gutnish had mir, iru, mid, preserving the Proto-Norse vowel quality. Another vowel shift that happened in most of Scandinavia was the shift from unser through an intermediate state, probably something like unsr, to war. Compare Old High German unser or Old English ure, user. This shift was very widespread in Scandinavian and is adopted by all the major languages today, but it did not happen in Old Gutnish, that had a root vowel or instead. Hence you have Old Gutnish årum compared to Old Swedish warum for dative plural, and this form is also found in early West Norse as årum or ossum. In Old Norse, a syncopated y or i dropped in singular, but that was still found in inflected forms, could sometimes come back if the following word began with a vowel, reflecting the underlying Proto-Norse form, with, for example, styr, old becoming styrjold, with styr from earlier storij. Another similar phenomena is the loss of w before rounded vowel. Compare Old English warden to Old Norse ådin. You can still see in some forms of alliteration in poems and word pairs, at least one of the words used to have a w in the start of the syllable, with, for example, Odin and his brothers, Odin, Willi, and We, that all started with w originally. Wodinas, Wilja, Wiha, showing that this alliteration predated the Old Norse period. In the Old Swedish Dalecarlian law, whose legislator and origin is not fully known, there are some words that seem to show Proto-Norse velar fricative before t being preserved, with at least the word for daughter showing a consistent spelling with a cluster, and not a long t, which is the usual in North Germanic. For example, compare Old English dochter to Old Swedish datir. The manuscript spelling, which is highly consistent with this word in all inflected forms, could suggest a pronunciation like dochtir. While the manuscript itself is largely written in typical Old Swedish, it's not impossible that some dialect forms could go through this, and it's known that Upperdale Carlian treated Germanic velar fricative plus t quite differently sometimes, which could suggest that this cluster actually survived into the 1200s. A side note is this is a different phenomena to pre-aspiration in Faroese and Icelandic, which affects all long voiceless t's, and not just historical velar fricative clusters. In the Gutnish dialect of Old Danish, n was not assimilated to t, to a long t in the neuter pronouns, which is unique in Scandinavian, with, for example, Proto-Norse minat, sinat becoming mint and sint, compared to all other Norse mitt and sit. Another interesting phenomena is how Old Danish and West Norse kept some old Werner alternates for the word wheel, which had two different forms in Proto-Germanic. For example, Scanian and even later dialects attested in modern era show a voicing of the velar fricative, consistent with the ancient plural form being fossilized in the position. And Old West Norse, continuing into modern Icelandic and Faroese, showing double pairs of hwel and hjol from the different forms.